Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. We want to say welcome today. Welcome for joining LKM Kingdom Living, Leslie's Lessons Learned, where I am with my guest today. My guest, and I'm so excited that she was able to be on today. This lady is very busy herself, and she's taken the opportunity to come on. And I'm going to let her introduce herself in a minute. But you know what? Today I bought my mirror. See my mirror? I had this mirror so long, and I never used it. And the spirit said, "Go get that mirror." I was like, "Oh, okay." So when I say to you, have you looked in the mirror today? Well, I'm looking in the mirror right now. Now, when I look in my natural self, I see a whole lot of wrinkles. I see a whole lot of crawl, whatever they call them, coming up on the side. But then when I change and see myself in the image of Yahweh, I see a beautiful person. And you know what? That person he has created. And because he has taken the opportunity to create me, I am so grateful. And I want to say to those of you that have looked in the mirror this morning, or before you even look in the mirror, don't look at your natural self. See the glory, see who has created you, see the creator in you. And if you say to yourself, if life worth living, I want to say to you, life is worth living. And one of the things I was thinking about this morning was that a lot of times when we say is life worth living, it's because we're giving up on hope. We've given up on ourselves. And I want to encourage you today to not give up on yourself. I want you to look past what you're going through. Sometimes, our peripheral viewing, we can't see everything. But when you begin to, it's almost like you're in a traffic jam and you don't know what's ahead of you. You just know it's a traffic jam and you're sitting there. But when you get that free, smooth, and then you can say, oh, that's what it was. It was an accident. Everybody taking their time to see what happened or whatever it was. I want to encourage you today. Just look past what you see and begin to understand that you are greater than what you're going through, that you're more powerful than what you're going through. And because of that, the Creator has a purpose for you, and your purpose has a destiny. And I always say your destiny has a purpose. And when I think about Yeshua when he came, which is Jesus Christ, I think about how his purpose was to come and how his destiny was to cross and how his purpose was to go and sit back on the right hand side of the Father. Your life is not over. So I just want to encourage you today. Hold your head up. Keep smiling. Uh, you will see your way through. And if you don't, get on the phone, call somebody, text somebody, and ask somebody if they can help you to get through your process. And that's what I want to say today. We come on and from Sunday to Sunday, and it's just a wonderful thing to come on. And in the midst of it, now I can't find that saying, right? Uh-huh. Okay, so we'll keep going. But in the midst of it, I want to welcome Minister Wanda Floyd. Look, they've been waiting for you. uh, to be on the platform with me today. I appreciate her so much. I'm gonna let her tell you who she is. I can't tell it like she can. That's anybody's like we can't tell it like they can. But I'm gonna give her a moment to just tell you who she is and what she does. Welcome to Leslie's Lessons Learned, Minister Wanda.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Good morning and shalom to everyone. Such an honor and a privilege to be here with the beautiful Miss Leslie. Uh, a little bit about myself. I am a mother of 8. I'm a licensed cosmetologist. I've been licensed for 29 years. I am also an educator, a cosmetology instructor, author, everything hair. That's what I'm mostly known for, is hair and hair care. I can guarantee you that I can give you results in 90 days if you stick to the plan and stick to the process and you trust me. There's some other things that I do as well, but I'm mostly known for uh, hair and hair care. And yes, I am a licensed ordained minister. I don't talk about that much. Because what is it? We're all ministers, right? We're all ministers, but yeah, that's the
Did you really go there?
yeah.
Did you really
We're
go
all
there?
since you want to call me Minister Wanda.
So she's an awesome woman of God all around. Did y'all hear her say she got 8 children? 8. She has 2 sets of twins, y'all. 2 sets of twins, and my hat is off to her and her life, her just being able to manage it all. Because I know you have. Is it how many children you have in the military? Just one?
Just one. Oh,
Just one.
mhm.
Okay, she has her one daughter in the military, and I just my hat's off to her. My hat's off to her. Uh, she's steady educating herself. I'll just put it that way. She's in school now. She's educating herself. She has this big dream that everybody's waiting for to start her own. And she is a teacher to the heart. Can I say that? She is a teacher to the heart. And one of the things that I used to notice when we would go on to BW Jones, and I shout out to BW Jones this morning. Hope you have an amazing day. Um, is that your notes you used to take? And I used to copy them notes every time. I was like, oh, I gotta save these. I got all your notes. And then when it stopped, it was like, oh man, what happened to the notes? But yeah, that was such a added piece to it. So I thank you for being on. We had a conversation, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to send this link out and at the same time. We had a conversation a couple of months back, and we were talking about forgiving and forgetting. And I said, we're going to have that conversation. So today, we're going to kind of dive into that conversation. I've been up this morning, yesterday, and I've been thinking about this thing. And yeah, we're going to dive into this. So I, I think, yeah, we was having a conversation and you were sharing some things with me. Do you remember what you were sharing about that conversation?
I think we were talking about forgiveness and the saying that I'll forgive you, but I won't forget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that over the years, and it caused me to really think about that. I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine that I love dearly, and we were talking about a client that I had that did me dirty and put my name out there on social media, all behind a haircut, but it was deeper than that. But took it to social media instead of coming to me and did me dirty. And then everybody we had in common, she told this same story too, that I cut her hair badly over a man. And um, and so everybody we had in common, she told this story to. And it really cut deep to the core because of the client, the situation behind the client, someone that called me sister, you know, um, and to do that. And so I vowed that they would never sit in my chair again, ever,
Hmm.
ever. Um, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine, because they wanted to come back. And they asked me, well, did you forgive them? I'm like, yeah, I forgave them. That don't mean they got to sit in my chair again. And I said, I'll never forget what they did. And they said, then you didn't forgive them. I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, if you can't forget what they did, then you didn't really forgive them. And as we've been embarking on this forgiveness,
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to calm down. I want you to relax and stop rocking.
am I rocking? I'm sorry. You think that's a normal thing?
Yeah.
To sit rock and talk? Okay, I'm gonna sit still. I think that's a normal thing that I do.
Yeah.
I rock.
Uh-huh.
And I'll try to sit still.
That's like me looking at the camera.
I'll try to sit still. So when we were embarking on this forgiveness, I started thinking about that. Well, what does forgetting play in this whole thing of forgiveness? And should we be forgetting what has happened? And as I thought about it, I believe that there is a level of forgetting that is necessary, because if we don't have a level of forgetting, then we keep ourselves in bondage with that thing, whatever that might be. Childhood, childhood trauma, bad marriage, divorce, even our children dealing with divorce, someone talking about you, someone backbiting, someone stealing. Uh, is it necessary to have a level of forgetting? And I realized that as long as I could remember it, there was a level of bondage that it was keeping
It
me,
is. Yes.
right? And then not only me, but I keep the person that did the offense in
Right.
bondage as well,
Yes.
you know, um, because people change.
They do. We
We
do.
allow
Yes, we
them,
do.
right? We
Yeah.
hold them to that offense. We hold them to that hurt. We hold them to that pain. We still remember things that happened in our childhood, right? Now, I'm not saying that you should forget it altogether, but I do know that forgiveness is a decision, right? And forgetting is a part of that process. While it might not be an easy thing, the more my heart and my mind forgives, the more I forget. For
Right.
example, as a child or a teenager, I lost my mom at
Mhm.
16.
Did you?
Lost my mom at 16. Um, and what I'm about to tell, the people involved, they know about it. So, lost my mom at 16. And one of the rules of the house was I wasn't allowed to keep my door closed.
Mhm.
And so this particular morning, I got up, went to the restroom, saw my dad and my brother sitting at the kitchen table, looked at them, went back in my room, closed the door, got back in the bed. And then it hit me, wait, my door is closed. So I got back up, looked in the kitchen. I said, um, Dad, Daddy, my door was closed. And he said, you didn't hear the ambulance and the fire truck? And I'm like, what? He said, you didn't hear all of that, the ambulance and the fire truck. We closed your door so you wouldn't be disturbed, but you really mean you didn't hear any of that? I was like, no, I didn't hear none of that. And he said, well, your mom had a heart attack. and they took her to the hospital. And you didn't hear it because you didn't care. My mom and I think like months back, we had like a little argument. My mom was flip mouth, and
Oh, so was her daughter, huh?
but you better watch it. I kind of said something under my breath, but she still heard me, right? So she wasn't talking to me. Of course, she told my father, and so my dad was like, "Well, you didn't hear it because you didn't care." And even at that age, I really had a wonderful relationship with Yahweh. And I went in my room and I said, well, at the time, God, I was like, did I really not hear all of that because I didn't care? And he said, no, that was because I was protecting you. I was protecting you. So that was the first instance. The second instance between my brother and my dad, because of that, I went into a depression. But back then, we weren't really talking about depression, right? I went into depression. I cared nothing about school anymore. So basically, I was dropping out. The girls on my block were all graduating. My best friend was graduating. And I was in the kitchen and I walked in on a conversation my dad and my brother were having upstairs. And my dad and my brother were talking about how I wasn't going to amount to anything and how embarrassing I was. Everybody else, the teenagers on the block, was graduating, and here I wasn't graduating, and I was an embarrassment. And I literally heard that conversation between my brother and my dad. And from that point forward, I hated, do you hear me? Hated, abhorred both of them. There was no more relationship. Matter of fact, my dad called my name and it was like, don't call my name. It just like something went all the way through me when he called my name. It wasn't until my dad got sick with Alzheimer's. Now, my brother, we never had a relationship after that. One, because he didn't really want one. But my dad ended up getting Alzheimer's. And my brother was married, had a family, and he said, I can't come home to take care of daddy. I said, no problem. The time I was married, I took my family and we moved in with my dad and I took care of my dad. The only way I was able to do that was because to forgive him.
Right.
But the forgetting was not there. The trauma of what was said to me and the trauma of what was said about me followed me. So much so that if anyone said anything, a hint of anything that wasn't right, I immediately shut down and went into survival mode.
Because it paralyzes you.
Yes.
It paralyzes you.
You talking about wearing your feelings on your sleeve and you better talk to me nice. What? And I finally, again, because of my relationship with Yahweh, I realized that this thing was crippling me. And I needed to fully forgive so that I could forget what had happened. Because for a long time, I found myself trying to prove my brother and my dad
wrong.
You said I wasn't going to be anything. I married my first husband. I didn't even love him at all. But I wanted to make my father proud of me. I was like the lady on Color Purple. I was like Suge Avery. Look, I'm married now. For real. When I got married, my dad was there. I was like, Dad, I'm married now. I wanted to make him proud. I was so independent, fighting for what I wanted, that I wouldn't even allow people to help me because I didn't trust them. And I had
Right.
to prove my father and my brother wrong. I'm going to be somebody. I later went back, got my GED, went to cosmetology school. Through pregnancy, it took me 2 years to get my license
Wow.
because I was pregnant. I had to stop and go back, but I was determined to make something out of myself because I was going to prove them wrong. Still talking about, can you forgive and forget? So one day I realized that those two scenarios was crippling my life.
Right.
And I told God, I told Yahweh, I got to get rid of this. It's over. It's in my past. It does not predict what my future is. I'm not what they said about me.
Right.
It wasn't that I did not care about my mother. I loved my mother so much so that around her birthday, I would get severely depressed.
Mm.
At the time of her death, I would get severely depressed until I realized it was time to forget what happened. Do you know that now, when I made that decision, now her the anniversary of her death can come around and it'll pass. It'll be a couple of days, and I didn't
Right.
even realize it happened. Her
Mhm.
birthday was just July 17th. That
Okay.
used to cripple me.
Mm.
It doesn't anymore. Now I can look at the date and go, oh, it's mommy's birthday.
Yeah.
That's how I know there must be a level of forgetting for us to have true forgiveness. Um, I kind of looked this up because I didn't just want it to be what I was saying. I wanted some scripture to back it
Yeah.
up. And so I looked, there's a couple of things I looked at. Philippians 3,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
12. Let's go to Philippians 3 and 12. And it says, not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect. Now, that word perfect means complete and wanting nothing, right? But because it's written in the Greek, I wanted to go to the Hebrew translation as well to make sure that I understood what perfect meant, because that's going to be important. Um, the Hebrew word for um, perfect is tamaim, and it means entire, or you have integrity, truth, without a blemish. You're complete. You're full. You have sincerity, without a spot, undefiled. You're upright. You're whole, right? And so he's saying here that not as though I had already attained all of this, either were already complete or whole or complete, lacking nothing. But I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of the Mashiach. Brethren, I count not myself to have grabbed a hold of or apprehended, but this one thing I have grabbed a hold of. This one thing I have apprehended. I I do apprehend this, forgetting those things which are behind.
So let me stop you for a minute because I also had that scripture written down. But when I was looking at it, I was like, it's almost like Paul was walking and kind of swayed his hand like I I'm forgetting those. I got to forget those things. You know what I mean? He remembered. I mean, it was like he had to get somewhere. And he tells us where he got to get to. But he realized there were some things he had to let go that was like chains. I'm just putting it that way, chains to get to where he had to go to. If we think about the life of Paul and the things that he went through and the people that had ridiculed him, came against him, he had a lot of forgiveness to do, but he always kept the first things first. So I just wanted to say that because I was picturing Paul walking and just like, man, forget this stuff. You know how you get mad sometimes and you say, forget this. And I also thought about, and I'm going to let you finish, I'm sorry. I was sitting this morning and I was thinking about forgiveness and forgetting. And some things came up, and I was like, okay, some things is easy. Some things, and somebody come and say, oh, I apologize for doing so and so. Well, when did you do that? Or, oh, I forgot all about that. But then it's those things I know that sometimes I have called people to say I apologize for something, and they would say, okay, you know, because they haven't forgotten, and they're not letting it go. But I can't hang on to that part. I got to do what I got to do. And that's what Paul is saying here. I got to do what I got to do to get to where I got to get to. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there while you were talking, because it's vitally important that we understand that letting go is just as vitally important as forgiving, that they go hand in hand.
I agree.
And if you don't, a lot of diseases, sometimes you get breakouts, skin breakout, don't know why, you know, all these things begin to pop up in your body because you might have said you forgave, but you're still holding on to it because you haven't forgotten.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. When you talked about the chains, that's why it's important to unchain the offender, right? Um, Release them from ever having to come back to you and repent.
Mm, repeat that.
Release them from ever having to come back to you and say, I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for what happened. That's a part of the forgetting, is releasing, breaking the chains off of you, because a lot of us cannot go forward because we're still waiting for them to acknowledge what they did wrong.
So you mean there's strings attached?
Same thing with love. Can we love knowing that it might not be reciprocated?
That's right.
Can you forgive and forget knowing that it might not be reciprocated? Because you have to.
And it's hard, but you have to.
You have to. Because until you can, even like you said, the sickness and the disease,
Hair falling out.
the stress and your hair falling out. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, it takes 3 months. You could stress, it takes 3 months for it to show up in your scalp and your follicles. So the stress could be gone and it won't show up till 3 months later.
So the same thing with your body.
Same thing with your body. And let's go even deeper than that. We have things that are not happening for us, things that we've been promised, things that's still going on in our family, still going on in our finances, um, other things that are promised to us, but Yahweh is waiting for us to get to a level of forgetting, which will activate true forgiveness. because after a while, I'm not saying that you're going to forget altogether, but it should not trigger you.
Right.
You could remember without it triggering you. You could remember without it making you tear up. You can remember
Because you're going to
without it,
remember.
yeah, without it making you angry. You can remember without going all the way back down memory lane and rewinding the tape on everything that went down. That's why I said there's a level to the forgetting. Reminded of a true story of a man, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but this was one of the things that came in mind when we were talking about forgetting. There was a man whose son was killed. He was murdered, and the father was in court. He went to all the court cases, and the young man was convicted. But the dad had a relationship with Yahweh. And I'm just going to summarize it.
Mhm.
The young man, I'm not sure, Prophet Leslie, if the young man, I believe the young man reached out to him first and asked for forgiveness.
I think it's two different stories. Yeah, because there's
Okay. So
one.
one
Yeah.
of them, the young man reached out to the dad, wrote him a
Right.
letter, and asked for forgiveness. Now, this young man killed his only son, the only child he had. And the young man that was incarcerated for life wrote him a heartfelt apology, told him how he didn't grow up with a dad and all of that. Um, Long story short, Yahweh touched this man's heart, and that man adopted him as his son. The same young man that killed his son,
Yes.
he adopted him as his son.
Yes.
You could not without forgetting, having some level of forgetting. Because when that father looks at this man, he thinks about the son he lost. But he could not love him truly with the love that that young man never had. He literally replaced that man's son.
And that's what the father said. He said, when I saw him, I saw my
My
son.
son. That is a
And that's
level of
amazing.
forgetting and forgiving.
Yes. And loving.
Yes,
The
yes,
illustration of our father, his
absolutely.
son,
So
dying
some
on
of
the
us,
cross for us. Yeah.
absolutely. Some of us might feel like, well, I can't forget about it. I implore you that you have to forget about it because you need that freedom so that you can truly forgive. How can you want forgiveness, but you can't truly give forgiveness? Because as I'm seeing now, there's a level to the forgiveness. Um, when we go back to Philippians, he said that one thing that I have to do is I have to forget those things that are behind me and reach forth unto the things that are before me. So I press towards the mark. Now, we understand what he was talking about and what he was referring to, but I believe in our lives we have different marks that we have to press towards. And in order to press towards this mark of forgiveness, you have to have a level of forgetting.
You do.
We do.
It's no different than our walk, period. Your walk now is not the same as when you first gave your life. It was a process. You
Absolutely.
had, as you went through the process, there were certain things in your life you might have did then that you no longer do because now you're beginning to mature. And part of that maturity process It takes you from just drinking milk to beginning to eat solid foods. When we were a child, we spoke and we did things as a child. And when we mature, not just in life, in the things of Yahweh, things have to be different because we have to operate different. We can no longer operate like we used to operate. We can no longer talk like we used to talk. We can no longer testify in church how good God is. I ask everybody to forgive me, but you're still holding on something in your heart.
Absolutely.
Along with forgiveness is maturity. So what you're speaking about now is a level of maturity. And look, that song that used to say every round go higher and higher. Every time we go higher, there is a different responsibility that we have to take on. Forgiveness, when we first got saved, and I'm not saying it's different because it's not, we saw it differently than we see it now. We're starting to understand that there's a whole nother level to this forgiveness that you didn't have to worry about when you was younger because you was covered.
Absolutely.
When we get to certain levels, there's a responsibility that is towards us. And to whoever is listening today, I want you to know that the way you used to do things, you can no longer do them. And once you hear it, you are responsible for change. So before we go any further, I need to say to everyone that's listening, thank you. I appreciate you being. I'm gonna say we appreciate you being here. You're here. You're supporting. You're listening, and we want to thank you for that. I also have to do a quick commercial because what I do with the 1212 community, the different ladies or men, when they have certain businesses or whatever, I do a shout out to them. And today I want to do a shout out to Culture, which is Pasha Cook, and she has a clothing line. And you can go on to Culture, and you can see her clothing line. But I wanted to give a shout out to her, and her cup was made by Mixed Berries, which I talked about last week. So I just wanted to put that in there real quick before we go any further because this is not a one-time conversation. It's not a one-time conversation. And Paul was a great example of someone that has walked, fought, sunk, got bitten. I don't know if you ever heard of or saw the movie Pilgrim's Progress, but it's kind of think about Progress when I think about him, all the things he went to get to his final destination, and how he recognized he couldn't do it without forgiveness. Could you imagine how they did him? And he had to hide a lot of times because they remembered when. And that's what I want to talk about. Those that remember when. That would try to keep you in bondage. You forgot about it, but there's always that one that I remember when. That would try to make you go back to that place you've already been delivered from.
And I think that's the place where we can interject Paul again, where he says, I'm forgetting those things
I'm
that are
forgetting those
behind
things.
me. And,
Yes.
yeah, because they remember what Paul was doing to the believers.
Before.
Like, right. And it's right there. They were like, wait a minute, Saul, that was
Yeah.
you want me to let him in my house? That's
Right.
what you're saying?
And an example was
Right.
in certain places he went, they were still calling him Saul.
Yes. Yes. And
You see,
Yahweh had to say, No, he's good now. He met Adonai on the road. He good. But even then, we see forgiveness and forgetting, because he meets Adonai on the road and he says, Adonai, who are you? I'm the one you were persecuting, Saul. I'm the one. And you see a level of forgiveness and forgetting. So I'm forgetting what you did because you thought you were doing right. You
Right.
thought you were fighting, for those who were keeping the word. Y'all, that's not right, And but I'm going to use you now. I'm going to teach you the truth, and then I'm going to use you for my purpose. We see so many examples of forgiveness, forgetting, and forgiveness. We just talked about one this week when we look at Esau and Jacob.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Excellent example of
Yeah.
forgetting and forgiveness, a level of forgetting,
Yeah.
because Esau had a lot to remember. You, Esau, although we know what really went down, Esau felt like he was the victim. Esau felt like he had done wrong. Man, you done got my blessing like twice, and then they
Right.
still blessing you. You still getting blessings. Daddy's
And
still blessing you.
wait,
Mommy's still blessing you.
the word says he didn't even really care about his.
He did not. How many times have we not really tripped about something until it's gone? You have a sweater or something as girls, we had a sweater. If you had a sister, I didn't have sisters, but I got a little sister. And now I do. And she always wanted to get in my stuff. I love her. I do. I love her. I wasn't thinking about that sweater. Wasn't
Yeah.
thinking about it at all until I see it on her.
What you doing with my sweater,
What's wrong
Ron?
with my sweater? You wasn't even wear it. You didn't want it.
That's what they say. Yes.
Right. And Esau didn't even value what he had. He
No.
did not, you know. And then when it was gone, then he was mad enough to kill. As soon as my daddy died, yeah, I'm coming for you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill you.
Oh,
You
he
know,
was heated.
right. And then we see them reconcile, a level of forgetting and forgiveness.
But think about the brother. He didn't know whether he's going to forgive him or
He
not.
didn't. He didn't.
And
Now,
he had it set up. He set up just
he was
in case.
strategically planning his escape. Now, listen.
Just in case he tried to take us all out. We ain't going to let that happen.
Look, my children, my wives, look, y'all gonna go this way. We gonna strategically set this thing up so we can try to
Yes.
pass through, because I don't know what's gonna happen. So
Yes.
much so he had to talk to Yahweh about it and remind him of what he promised him.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we see levels of
Forgiveness.
forgetting and forgiveness throughout our word. And the only way you're able to do that, yes, ma'am, go ahead.
The key to what you just said is he went before the Father. And let me say this. You hear us saying Yahweh. We're speaking of God. We're just putting his name to it. It's just like if you're a girl, you're a girl. If you're a boy, you're a boy. And if you're in a crowd of a people, you don't know who they're talking about. But when they begin to call you Michelle or begin to call you Rick, then you identify with who they are. We're identifying with who he is. When you hear us talk about Yeshua, we're talking about Jesus Christ. And I just want to put that out there that they know, no. We believe, we're believers. We just put titles, not we take the titles away and put his name in place. So I just wanted to say that while you were going forth. I just want to put that little disclaimer out there.
That's
So,
good. That's
yeah.
good. Um, this has really made me sit back and do some introspection to examine my life, to see some areas that I have not truly forgotten. And
Yes.
until that happens, forgiveness, true forgiveness, won't be able to manifest itself. And I'm grateful. I will say this, I'm grateful for the bigger hurts in my life being healed so that I am able to forget and move on. Um, I love my brother. My brother lives with me. Um, so, another example of forgetting and forgiving. Um, but you cannot do this without the word. You cannot even begin to apply this without the word. Um, we oftentimes want to go to Yahweh, God, and ask for repent and ask for forgiveness. Um, but why won't we extend the same grace?
That's right. What it was the man with the talent? The and he was given the grace for forgiveness, but he didn't forgive those that were servants to him.
No. We can look at the
The prodigal son.
prodigal son, another example of forgetting and forgiveness. Like literally, he went to his dad. Usually, you don't get your inheritance until the father dies, right? And he basically was saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna need
We
mine.
ain't waiting.
Give me mine right now. Yeah, in a way, you're dead to me. Give me mine right now. I want mine."
Yeah, that's a good
And
way.
and the father gave it to him. He went off, squandered it, lived this lavish lifestyle, and failed. I mean, lower than low. And he's like, "Why am I living like this?
Right.
And my father has all of this." And I'm thinking now, why am I
So deep.
living like this?
So deep.
When my father has all of this waiting for me, why am I living like this when my father has all of this waiting for me? I can go home. And when the father saw his son coming, he was like, "Go get me my best robe. Go get my ring." He was just happy to see his son come home. He forgot about what had happened. He forgot about basically what his son had said to him when he asked for his inheritance. I
Yeah, it
just
didn't even matter.
come back. Are we any different when we turn our back on him? When we try to figure it out and do it our way? When we don't follow his commandments, when we don't keep his word, and then we come back and we repent, he forgets and he forgives over and over and over again. Somebody asks, how many times am I supposed to forgive? I know what he says, but how many times has he forgiven
Right.
us
Right.
and forgot about it? So it is absolutely essential that we forgive. That father just wanted his son back. Do you think that father
That's
threw that
all.
back up in his face?
That's
Do you
all.
think that father kept reminding him of what you did? I bet you he gave him some more. He started another inheritance for him.
I'm sure he did. He might have had some already. He might have been saving it while he was gone.
Probably.
So, in the word in Isaiah 43, I don't know if you have that
I
one.
don't.
Okay, but it talks about, it says in Isaiah 43:25, and I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgressions for my own sake, and will not remember them. He said it twice. Me, not you.
Me.
But I blotted them out.
They're gone.
Once you ask for forgiveness, once you come to me with that humble, our Yahweh is so compassionate towards us.
And
So,
loving.
so
Yes.
compassionate. That
We
he
can't.
sent his only.
Yes.
And what was one of the main things he came for? Forgiveness.
Of sins. Of sins. So that there would be no more sacrifices for sins, he became the ultimate sacrifice for our foolishness, for our nastiness, for our stubbornness, for our pride, for our ugly disposition, for our reminding people of what they did to us and you still haven't said sorry, but I forgive you. You telling, I'm calling Cap.
Walking around with an
I'm
attitude.
calling Cap because I promise you, I know you still didn't say you were sorry, but okay, we gonna keep going. And in the
Yeah.
back of my mind, every time I see you, she still didn't ask for forgiveness, but it's all right. My
Yeah.
ex-husband, yeah, you still you didn't ask. Now that one right there, that's why when you said it's a process and it's a step-by-step thing, and this isn't something that's going to come overnight because some things are easy. Some things are easy, offenses are easy to forget and forgive.
It's the one that your heart gets broken over.
Yes, when it deals with that heart and that heart being broken, I used to imagine that my heart was like stapled and soldered and taped with duct tape. Um,
Yeah.
and got some tacks in it, some nails,
Can't
um,
hardly make it.
some tar, some cement, trying to hold my little heart together.
Yes.
That those are the ones that you have to get to a level of forgetting. And baby, when I talk about that ex-husband, Yahweh be praised. It is the word that I hid in my heart that I might not sin against him. Teach me your word, Yahweh, so that this forgiveness can be real. Because every day I have a house full of children who are hurting because their father isn't here.
Oh yeah.
So daily, that forgiveness has to keep building. That forgetting has to keep building. That forgetting has to keep building because I got babies that are still affected by his decision.
Yeah.
And I have to teach them. That's why I enjoyed when the men were talking about forgiveness from a man's standpoint. That thing was tearing me up on the inside. I couldn't stop crying because now I have babies, children, girls that I have to teach how to forgive and forget. My sons who should have had a male voice in their lives present, and he's absent because he chooses to be absent. I have to teach them how to forgive and forget. But that comes with a relationship with the Father. All I
Yes.
can do is live it out before them.
Yes.
That's why they see me still talk to the family. That's why when they invited me
You
to the
have to.
reunion, I drove hundreds and thousands across country to take my children to the
Your
family.
children.
When his brother died, I flew to the funeral because I'm exemplifying what Yahweh tells us to do in the word.
Yeah.
That's
That's right.
how you do this thing. You got to live it out. And the only way I could do this, the only way I had strength was because of that word. There were days that I wanted to give up. There were days where I was like, I can't do this no more. I wanted to commit suicide, but if I commit
Amen.
suicide, who would take care of my children the way I do?
Especially all eight of them. Girl, you got eight of them.
I do, from the ages of
Oh,
33 to 18.
wow. My hat, I applaud you. I applaud you.
Honestly, I can't even. There was no book. There was no manual. I promise you,
I
it was
no, there's not.
only
No, there's not.
Yahweh. And
Yeah.
I didn't do everything right. I had
No.
to sit and have a conversation with my son a month or so ago. We sat down with my he's 21 now, oldest son, and he wanted to get some things off his chest. And I let him get the things off his chest. And I can't lie, when he was saying them, they were hurting me. And then later he came and I told him, I said, you're probably right. Some things weren't right, but that was his perspective.
It's perspective.
It was
Yeah.
his perspective. And when he later he thought about it and he came back, he said, Mom, I was just angry. I'm hurt. See, this is what I'm talking about, the effects of things that you go through when you go through these situations. He was like, Mom, I was just hurt. I was angry. I know you did your best. I know you did your best. I love you. I'm proud of you. Thank you for everything you did. And that's why I can be honest. And I told him, baby, I didn't do everything right. I know
Mm.
I didn't. So the things that I didn't do right, I'm asking you right now to forgive me.
Yes.
And once I did that, it's released.
Yeah. Yeah. And it releases him.
Hmm.
You know, um, it's we're at the almost at the top of the hour. I appreciate you being here. I do want to also talk about 18 and 19, or read it. We won't really have time to go into it. Isaiah 18 and 19, which I should have did first. But the thing of it is, and I always think about this scripture, and I know it's deeper, but it says, Father, provoke not your children. Our children are provoked because they have no leadership from a man's perspective to lead them.
Hmm.
All this killing is because they hurt. They're trying to be somebody. They have no feelings on the inside anymore because they've been broken for so long.
Yeah.
To us, it's terrible. To them, they are crying out, and we don't see it.
Yeah.
We have a people that have raised children, mothers that have done their best, and my hat's off because I was one of them. But we still have a world out there of children, not just boys. But the reason why I'm saying that, and it didn't say boys, it says provoke not your
Children.
children.
Yes.
Having children and not leading them back to Yahweh because you made a decision to just pop out children and keep it moving. Or you made a decision that this is not what you want and you walk away.
Yes.
This arena of forgiveness is so much deeper
It is.
than we even realize it. You was talking about your son and how you was feeling when he was talking about, that's what I say about my daughter Ashley. I say people, I say she be having me feeling all kind of ways. I try to, keep it in. She be busting me up, and I'll be like, okay, but the Lord said,
Yeah, they be messing us up.
So I get it. I get it. I get it. Thank you so much.
You're
We have
welcome.
to. We can't just end this here.
I and I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I just have one more passage because it's gonna give them something to think about. And then we can go. Is that okay?
Love you, Ashley. She be busting me up. And I'd be like, yes, there will be a part two. And we cannot leave this open like this. But uh you want to read yours first?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Mine
go ahead.
is Hebrews 10,
Okay,
and I'm gonna start at 16.
go ahead.
This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, said Adonai. I will put my laws into their hearts and in their minds will I write them, and their sins and iniquities will I remember no
No
more.
more. No
So
more.
if he can forgive and forget, I think we can forgive and forget.
And he throws them into the sea of forgetfulness.
Yeah, I
That
was
means
looking
they
for,
just float
yeah,
away.
float away, float,
They just
float
float.
on.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So thank you. But I do want to also do the finish the Isaiah 43. What you said, I should have let you put that in at the end. It's so timely. But the 18th verse, and it says, "Remember ye not the former things,
Mm,
neither consider
mm,
the things of old."
mm.
Don't keep bringing them up. What do you say about going, putting your hand to the plow, looking backwards?
That's right.
Behold, I will do a new thing. And we're holding up that new thing. We're
Yes.
holding up that new place in Him, holding on and remembering, going back. Ooh, some people are so angry still years later and don't want to let it go because they broke their heart. And Yahweh is saying, "Come unto me, all ye that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." He says, "Now it will spring forth, not till you forgive, not till you let go, won't it spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert."
Mm,
So all those things that have seemed like they was blocked and clogged up, he says, "I'm making a new way for you to get through this. That the process won't be so hard anymore. If you just give it to me, give it to me."
mm, absolutely.
Guess what? When you say, "Father, forgive me," he's already forgotten.
So that,
Instantly, he forgets. How about you? Are you willing to instantly allow him to work on you to let it go? I don't know if you feel led to pray, but I'm going to ask you to close us out in prayer.
Father, we just thank you. We thank you for speaking to us. We thank you for speaking to our hearts this morning. We thank you for reminding us, and in some of us, you're correcting us because you want us to be perfect, meaning complete and
Amen.
wanting nothing. You want us whole. And you showing us that even with forgiveness, there's still a process to it. There are layers to it. And part of that layer of forgiveness is forgetting those things that are behind us. Because when you forgive us, you truly forget about it. All of us sitting here, if we would just think about those things of remembrance are important because it reminds us of where we came from, but it's not for us to stay there and waddle in it. It's just for us to know what you brought us from. And if you could bring us out of all of that and forget about it and continue to forgive us, Father, why can't we? Even Paul reminds us, Yahweh, that there is therefore no condemnation. So even when we still mess up, there is still forgiveness available for us. So today we ask you, each person that is watching and each person that will watch the replays, we ask now that you would help us with this process. Even the people or the things or the situations that maybe are still a trigger and that we need to be able to forget, begin the process in us. Help us to talk to you about what that process looks like. Show us in the word what that process looks like, because we want to be complete and whole, lacking nothing. We thank you. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for your grace, which is your power in your word to do it. And most of all, we thank you for your love, because that is what has kept us. Our faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Elohim. And we will apply your word to our lives and every situation going forward. We give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor in the matchless name of our Son, your Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, which is Jesus the Christ. Amen and amen.
Amen. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back. I'll set up, see when Minister Rwanda is available again. And we want to thank you so much. I pray that your hearts have been softened to have compassion for someone else. And until we see you next Sunday, have a great week.